we're going way deeper than just the usual tourist stuff.
Oh, yeah. We're diving into the history and the craftsmanship of the gondola. Like, how did this become the symbol of Venice?
Right. I mean, everyone pictures a gondola when they think of Venice. And we've got some articles and some notes, and we're going to try to uncover, like, the real story of the gondola,
Yeah.
how it's made, the people who make it, the traditions.
The whole thing. And I'm seeing here that the first documented mention of a gondola is from 1094. So, I mean, this is old.
Wow, 1094. That's older than a lot of things. And it makes sense, right? I mean, Venice is a city built on water. So
Yeah.
obviously they needed boats to get around before they had all the bridges we see now.
Makes sense. And the origins of the word gondola itself is kind of murky. Some say it's from medieval Greek, others from the Latin simbula, which means small boat. And there is even a theory connecting it to a type of Indian boat.
Huh. That's really interesting. So are we talking about, like, just basic boats at first? Like, how did they transform into that elegant shape we all know?
Well, it seems like it started with simple boats, probably even just hollowed out tree trunks. Makes sense if you think about it.
It's super practical.
Yeah, and then they evolved, right? So over time, they developed that flat bottom, the pointed prow, and the high kind of inverted stern, perfect for navigating those narrow, shallow canals.
So then how did they go from basic transportation to, like, these super fancy status symbols?
Well, as Venice grew in power and wealth, so did the gondolas. They became a way to display that wealth. People started adding intricate carvings, inlays, even decorating them with silk, satin, gold. Like, imagine that. The canals just filled with these ornate, luxurious gondolas.
That must have been a sight to see. So by what point did the gondola start looking like the gondola we know today?
It seems like it was around the 17th century when they really settled into that sleek, elegant shape. And originally they had two oarsmen, but eventually they switched to a single oarsman design. I mean, can you imagine trying to navigate those crowded canals with two
Oh
oarsmen?
my gosh, no. Especially back then. I mean, how many gondolas were there in, say, the 17th or 18th centuries?
Oh, tons. I mean, I'm seeing estimates between 8 and 10,000 gondolas at their peak. Of course, that wasn't the only kind of boat in Venice,
Right.
right? They still had their galleys and merchant ships for trade and all that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But still, 10,000 gondolas. That's wild.
Yeah.
So did the design change much after that?
Well, there was one super important change in the 19th century. A guy named Domenico Tremontin, he introduced what they call the banana shape.
The what? The banana shape.
Yeah, it's subtle, but it's basically a slight asymmetry in the hull. The left side is wider than the right by about 9 inches, like 23, 24 centimeters.
Wait, so it's not symmetrical. What?
It's all about balance. The gondolier rows from the right side, so having that wider left side helps to counterbalance the weight and makes the boat much more maneuverable. And it's really cool.
What?
The Tremontin family, they're still making gondolas today. And the city government actually froze the gondola design in the mid-20th century, so it's pretty much stayed the same ever since.
Wow, that's a real testament to the craftsmanship. And I guess with the rise of motorboats, the gondola really transitioned into being more of a tourist attraction, but it still feels super authentic. It's not just a gimmick.
Exactly. So speaking of craftsmanship, we have to talk about the squirrow. That's where the real magic happens.
It's a squirrow. What is that?
It's the traditional Venetian boatyard where they build gondolas. It's really fascinating because they use like over 280 pieces of wood for each gondola. And it's not just any wood.
Oh, I bet.
They use 8 different types of wood, all chosen for their specific properties. Like oak for the frame because it's strong, and larch for the hull because it's water resistant. There's even a connection to the Belluno region in the design of the squirrow itself. The shape kind of echoes the mountain huts there.
Really? Huh. So what's the actual building process like? I mean, we're talking hundreds of pieces of wood. How do they put it all together?
It's pretty incredible. They carve and bend and fit everything together without using any nails or screws.
Wow, really? No nails or screws?
Nope. The whole thing is built around a wooden frame called the cantier. And it takes, 2 to 3 months to build one gondola. It's like 400 to 600 hours of work.
That's amazing. And these things must cost a fortune.
They do. I mean, we're talking 30,000 to 50,000 euros for a new gondola. So, yeah, not cheap.
Wow. So, wait, going back to the banana shape, you said the left side is wider to counterbalance the gondolier, right? But why are they all painted black?
Ah, that's a good question. So apparently, back in the 16th century, there was this law passed to try and curb all the extravagant displays of wealth. Like people were just going overboard with decorating their gondolas.
I can imagine. So this law was like a sumptuary law, like trying to regulate consumption and extravagance.
Exactly. And part of that law was that all gondolas had to be painted black. And it just stuck. It's become like this iconic symbol of Venice, these sleek black boats gliding through the canals.
So I have to ask about becoming a gondolier. Is it like a family business or can anyone just, decide to be a gondolier?
Well, it used to be very much a family tradition passed down through generations, but now it's open to anyone over 18. But it's not easy. There's a whole process you have to go through.
Oh, I bet. What's involved?
Well, first you have to attend a specialized gondolier school. And the curriculum is pretty intense. It covers Venetian rowing, which is called voga alla veneta, but also history, geography, even languages, English for talking to tourists.
Wow. So it's not just about rowing.
No, they're like ambassadors for Venice. So they have to know their stuff. They learn about art, culture, all that. And then there's a really competitive exam you have to pass. They only issue a limited number of licenses each year.
It sounds really tough.
It is. And then there's a practical exam called the prova dell'emo, which means oar test. Basically, experienced gondoliers judge your rowing skills, and if you pass all that, then you get to be an apprentice for like 6 to 12 months.
So a lot of hoops to jump through.
Oh, yeah. And even then, there's a tiered system. You start as a substitute gondolier, and then eventually, if you're good enough, you can get a full license.
And how many licensed gondoliers are there today?
It's actually a pretty small number, around 400, I think.
Wow, a very elite group.
So, besides the rowing and the knowledge of Venice, what else makes a good gondolier?
Well, they have to be good swimmers,
Mhm.
obviously. And they need to know first aid, just in case. But I think just as important is their personality. They need to be, friendly, personable, able to tell stories, to really engage with the people they're taking on the ride. Yeah, they're like storytellers, part of the magic. Yeah. Speaking of, let's talk about the actual experience of taking a gondola ride. What are some of the must-see spots?
Oh, there are so many. Of course, you have the classic spots like St. Mark's Square, the Grand Canal, the Rialto Bridge, but there are also some really cool, quieter areas like the Ghetto or Campo San Barnaba, which is where they filmed some scenes from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, actually.
Oh, that's awesome. So what about routes? Do most gondoliers follow like a set path, or is it more free-flowing?
It usually involves a mix of both. They'll often take you down the Grand Canal to experience that grandeur, and then weave through some of the smaller, quieter canals for a more intimate feel.
And what about the cost? Is it pretty standardized, or does it vary a lot?
There are standard rates set by the city. It's usually around 90 euros for a 30-minute ride during the day and a little more in the evening, like 110 euros for 35 minutes.
Hmm.
And you can add extra time for like 40 or 50 euros per 20 minutes.
Okay, and how many people can fit in a gondola?
They can take up to 5 passengers usually, so it can be pretty affordable if you split it with friends or family.
Definitely. So, the gondolas themselves are full of interesting details,
Yeah.
like the ferro at the prow. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. So the ferro is that kind of ornate metal piece at the front of the gondola. And it's not just decorative, it's actually a counterweight to balance the gondolier at the back.
Makes sense. But I've heard there's a lot of symbolism packed into the design. What's the deal with all the curves and teeth?
Well, the S shape of the ferro is said to represent the Grand Canal itself. And the 6 teeth, they stand for the 6 sestieri, the 6 districts of Venice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And the single tooth that faces backwards, that represents the island of Giudecca. And the curved top is supposed to resemble the Doge's hat.
So it's like a little map of Venice right there on the front of the gondola.
Exactly. And sometimes you'll even see a semicircular break in the ferro, and that's supposed to represent the Rialto Bridge.
Wow, that's so cool. So much symbolism packed into one little piece of metal.
Right. And then you have other parts, like the remo, which is the oar, and the forcola, the oarlock. The remo is made of beechwood, and it's asymmetrical, just like the hull.
Asymmetrical. Why?
To help the gondolier maneuver, it gives them more leverage. And the forcola is super intricate. It's this carved wooden piece with like 8 different points of contact for the oar. Each one is custom made for the gondolier.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. And there's also the platform where the gondolier stands, right?
Yeah, that's called the succetto. And there's a thwart, a kind of crossbeam near the bow, that's called the trasto. It's often made of cherry wood.
So thinking about all the different parts and all the craftsmanship involved,
Yeah.
it really takes a whole team of skilled artisans to make a gondola, right?
Absolutely. You have the intagliatori, the wood carvers who create all those intricate details, and then the battiloro, they're the gold leaf artisans, if the gondola has any gold leaf on it. And then you have the rimmer, who specialize in making the oars and the forcola, and of course the squarelor, the master boat builder, who oversees the whole process. It's like a whole ecosystem of tradition and skill.
Wow. So it's more than just a boat, right? It's a piece of art. And it's been around for centuries. Like we said, there must be so many stories tied to those canals, those gondolas.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there are legends about, back when gondolas were the main mode of transport and how they were used for everything from romantic trysts to smuggling. And there are even ghost stories about ghostly gondoliers and haunted canals.
Oh, spooky.
And of course, there's the tradition of the bark roll, the gondolier songs. It said that gondoliers used to be confidants to the people they ferried around, privy to all their secrets and gossip.
Wow, imagine the things they must have heard.
I know, right? And the barcarolle kind of reflect that, these melancholy, romantic songs about love and loss and the city itself.
It's amazing how the gondola has become such a symbol of Venice. And it's not just a tourist thing. They're still used in a lot of traditional ways, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, you still have the traghetti. Those are the larger gondolas that act as public ferries across the Grand Canal at certain points.
All right.
And they're still used for special occasions like weddings, all decked out with white flowers, or for funerals draped in black.
Oh, well.
And of course, there's the historical regatta, which is this big rowing race with all sorts of traditional boats, including gondolas and gondolini, which are these smaller racing gondolas.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a huge event in Venice. And then there's the Festa della Marie, which is this historical festival where they have a procession of Marys, these young women dressed in period costumes riding in decorated gondolas.
Wow, there's so much history and tradition wrapped up in the gondola. It's
Yeah.
really incredible. But I imagine it must be tough to maintain these traditions, especially with the challenges Venice is facing.
Yeah, for sure. Like, one of the biggest concerns is the aging population of not just the gondoliers, but also the squaroli, the boat builders. It's
Yeah.
hard to attract younger generations to these crafts, especially when there are other, maybe easier ways to make a living.
Right. And then you have the issue of mass tourism, which can be a double-edged sword. I mean, it brings in revenue, but it can also put a strain on the city and its traditions.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance. But it's important to remember that the gondola is more than just a boat. It's a symbol of Venice's resilience, its ingenuity, its artistic spirit.
It's a vessel carrying centuries of history and craftsmanship. And it's a reminder that even in the face of modernity, tradition and beauty can endure. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of the gondola, I think the big question is, how can we ensure that this iconic symbol continues to thrive in the future? How can we balance tradition and progress in a way that preserves the soul of Venice for generations to come?
A question worth pondering, for sure.
Quando gli innamorati vogliono amarsi ancor di più, vanno nella città più bella